Anatomy Trains invites you to take your career to the next level with Anatomy Trains Structural Integration, ATSI. We're kicking off the next training this September in Maine under the guidance of Tom Myers and our expert team. Come map the pattern and shape the change in this transformational 3-part certification program. Visit anatomytrains.com for details. Unlock this exclusive 20% discount on all Earthlight products, from portable tables and chairs to professional sheets and oils. Visit earthlight.com, create an account, and enter your ABMP member ID during registration. Plus, enjoy free ground shipping on orders over $75 and a flat rate of $395 for stationary or electric lift tables. Significant savings on everything you need to enhance your practice. Shipping rates and discounts subject to change. We're proud to assist you as the world's #1 brand in massage. Visit earthlight.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ABMP Podcast. I'm Whitney Lowe, and today I'll be your host, and we're going to be diving into a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of how we experience pain and how, more importantly, how we might help people relieve it. We're going to be talking about something called descending modulation today, what that means, how it works, and why it's a big deal for anyone doing hands-on work like massage therapy, manual therapy, or bodywork of any kind. Now, the term descending modulation sounds kind of like something from a NASA engineering manual, but stick with me for a second here. It's actually one of the most important ways our nervous system helps us regulate pain. And the best part, there's growing evidence that what we do as manual therapists may help activate it as well. So whether you're someone who's deep into clinical side of things or just trying to maybe make sense of why your client's pain doesn't always line up with their posture or muscle tone, today's episode is specifically for you. Let's jump in with the basics of how pain gets from the body to the brain and how the brain sends signals back down to calm things down, which is essentially what descending modulation is all about. Over the last couple of decades, there's been a tremendous amount of research about pain, and the one thing that's come out of that is recognizing that pain is complex, not just how it feels, but in how it works within our body. When we experience something potentially harmful, let's say you stub your toe, for example. Sensory nerves send signals from the peripheral nerves in your toe up the lower extremity and eventually up the spinal cord to the brain. This is what we call the ascending pathway. Ascending because it's going up. Think of it like a message traveling up a ladder saying, hey, we've got a problem down here. The brain then interprets that signal, and here's the kicker. It doesn't always take that message at face value. The brain evaluates it. How bad is this? Should I pay attention to it right now? Or maybe could I just ignore it? Should I dampen it down? Maybe turn it down a little bit so I don't have to pay so much attention to it, and we'll deal with it later. That's where the descending pathway comes in. These are signals that go back down from the higher levels of brain to the spinal cord that can then either amplify or suppress the incoming pain information. A great example of this is the gate control theory of pain, first proposed by Melzack and Wall back in about 1965, I think it was. They suggested that the spinal cord acts like a gate, and when we experience pain or other sensory inputs like touch or pressure, it can actually close that gate, reducing the pain signal that reaches the brain. Ever bumped your elbow and instinctively rubbed it? That rubbing activates sensory fibers that help close the gate, essentially, reducing the intensity of the pain that you feel. It's like the nervous system has its own volume knob. But here's what's wild. The brain doesn't just wait for signals. It can make a top-down decision about how pain should be experienced, and then send signals down to modulate what's coming in. That's where the term descending modulation comes from. Let's break down how descending modulation system actually works. The descending pain modulatory system, or DPMS for short, is the brain's way of applying the brakes on pain, basically. It's a built-in regulatory system that can tone things down when pain is no longer helpful or turn the volume up when it needs to grab your attention. Maybe the brain thinks you really need to be paying attention to this. It can turn that volume up as well. Here's how it works in sort of more plain language. There are 3 key players here. The first is a section of the brain called the periaqueductal gray, or PAG. Deep in the midbrain, this area is kind of like a mission control. It receives messages about pain, stress, fear, even memory and emotion. It then decides, should we turn the pain up or down? So it's kind of making some determinations about that. The next section is the rostral ventromedial medulla, or RVM for short. This is the next stop. Think of it like the dispatch center. The RVM relays the command to the spinal cord and can tell it to either inhibit or facilitate that pain signal. Facilitate essentially meaning amplify it or make it more prominent. The third section is the dorsal reticular nucleus. This is the feedback system. It sends info back to the brain and helps regulate the balance. These regions send their instructions down the spinal cord to the dorsal horn, where pain signals from the body are arriving. It's like air traffic control, basically. You've got a constant stream of information, and this system decides which signals land and which are diverted. You also have some important chemical messengers in the brain that are playing a role in this process. This system uses several built-in chemicals to modulate pain. One of the ones we hear about most often are the endogenous opioids, like beta-endorphins and enkephalins. These act just like morphine, but your body essentially makes them. We also have the endocannabinoids, your body's version of THC and CBD, which can help calm pain down and decrease stresses as well. We also have serotonin and norepinephrine, which are also targeted by antidepressants, showing just how closely pain and mood are really linked and related. All of these are released in response to things like stress, injury, and yes, therapeutic input as well. These systems don't just block pain, they can change how it's processed and even how it's remembered. Another interesting process is something called DNIC. This is a fascinating phenomenon. DNIC stands for diffuse noxious inhibitory control. It's the idea that pain in one area of the body can actually reduce pain in another. You can clearly see how this could come into play in manual therapy when we're doing something like trigger point work in one area that has significant pain sensations that might impair or sort of decrease pain sensations in another area. So sometimes maybe even you've had your leg cramp while stubbing your toe and notice that the stub toe hurts less because the leg cramp is so prominent. That's DNIC in action. Research suggests that manual therapy, especially strong and novel or deep techniques, so this is where maybe something new or different, or when you're working with moderately decent pressure or specificity on certain tissues, might stimulate this effect. It's like you're saying to the nervous system, hey, pay attention over here. And in doing so, you're dampening pain elsewhere. Now, there's some places where the system runs into problems and it begins to have some kinks or failures, and that's oftentimes where some of these pain problems get out of control. So in chronic pain, for example, the system often malfunctions. The inhibitory side doesn't work as well, and the facilitatory side, that side that's really amplifying those signals, becomes overactive. Conditions like fibromyalgia, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and temporomandibular dysfunction show clear signs of impaired descending inhibition. People with these conditions often feel pain more intensely, not necessarily because of tissue damage, but because their pain modulatory system isn't working properly. Understanding this shifts our approach. We're not just looking for tight muscles or inflammation. We're supporting a system that's gotten out of sync. And to a large extent, that's the neurological system. So we have to look at this from a sort of a neurological lens of how we might engage those beneficial results through the type of work that we're doing that is more neurologically oriented. Now, let's bring it back to your work for just a second. As manual therapists, you're not just moving muscles. You're speaking to the nervous system tremendously. Every stroke you do, every press, every word you say, it's all information that the brain uses to decide how safe the body feels with that particular intervention. There's growing evidence that touch, pressure, and movement can help stimulate these descending inhibitory systems. Here are some research findings that shed some light on how this may work. There is some evidence that massage may increase serotonin, dopamine, and even oxytocin, like bonding hormone that enhances trust and calm. There's some indication spinal manipulation, similar to what we do in massage or manual therapy, may increase some neuropeptides, which reduce pain as well. So there's also been some research indicating osteopathic techniques, again, very similar to what we often do, have been associated with rises in beta endorphin levels as well. All of these point to one idea. Your manual therapy work may be helping the brain turn the pain dial down, and that's a big and critically important factor. But here's what's just as important: context. If the client trusts you, if they feel safe and listened to, if they understand what's happening, those are all critically important factors. Their brain is more likely to activate these inhibitory pathways in those instances. That's also why things such as dim lighting in the treatment room, a warm pad on your massage table, soft music, and other factors in your treatment room help encourage these descending modulatory processes. I want to make a key point here. Don't underestimate the value of these interventions. They can be a super important part of your treatment effectiveness. So make sure you're trying to maximize them as much as possible with the clients that you're working with. This is also where therapeutic alliance becomes a physiological tool. It's not just about being nice. It's about setting the stage for neurological change. This aspect of how the therapeutic alliance encourages descending modulation for pain management is really important. So let's take a deeper dive into that for just a moment. First off, what is therapeutic alliance when we use that term? The therapeutic alliance refers to the collaborative and trusting relationship between a healthcare provider and their client or their patient, whatever you call them. Originally studied in psychotherapy, the concept has been increasingly recognized as crucial in other healthcare fields, including massage and manual therapy, where it's now considered a significant contributing factor to treatment outcomes. The therapeutic alliance typically includes three key elements: agreement on goals, so both the therapist and client share a mutual understanding of what they hope to achieve through that particular treatment. Agreement on tasks. There's a consensus on the processes or interventions or the ways that you're going to be using these strategies or methods to reach those particular goals. And an emotional bond, a foundation of trust, empathy, and respect that helps the client feel safe, heard, and supported. So why does this matter so much in pain management manual therapy? Well, in the context of manual therapy and pain management, the therapeutic alliance isn't just nice to have. It's really essential. It's a clinical tool that directly influences our outcomes with our clients. So why does it do this? Well, because as we said earlier, pain's not only a physical sensation, it's also a biopsychosocial phenomenon. So the relationship that's happening there, that's one of the key places where we're making an intervention that's having a very beneficial effect. That strong therapeutic alliance can enhance that descending pain modulatory system that we spoke about earlier, the brain's ability to dampen pain signals by creating that safe, trusting, and positive therapeutic environment. It can also reduce fear and anxiety, which are known to amplify pain sensations. So the client's perception of the therapist's care, empathy, and skill can activate endogenous opioid systems, which play a role in natural pain relief. These non-specific effects, like how the interaction feels, can be just as impactful as the hands-on techniques themselves. So, a lot of times it's not so much about the specific technique you're doing, but it's about the way in which you're engaging with that person that makes so much difference. We also know clients are more likely to follow through with home care suggestions, attending sessions regularly, and engaging actively in that process when they feel understood and respected. And those are key parts of that therapeutic alliance. That improves consistency, again, in our treatments, which is key to managing chronic or persistent pain problems. We also know that when clients feel like partners in their care, they develop a stronger sense of control and confidence, crucial for managing long-term conditions. So it shifts the model from the therapist as a fixer to the therapist as a guide or facilitator, aligning with the best practices in pain science and what we know about behavior change. So just remember, the Therapeutic Alliance is the backbone of effective manual therapy for pain. It shapes how clients interpret their symptoms, how motivated they are to engage, and how receptive their nervous system is to both touch and communication. So especially in persistent pain cases where there's, maybe no specific tissue damage or no single thing that we can find as a problem. It's not just a single technique or protocol that's going to get that quality of change in that relationship. It's going to be a lot of those things all put together that's going to create a central component of healing. Another interesting aspect of this descending modulatory system is the novelty of touch sensations. When you introduce something unexpected or new, for example, a new technique that you're doing or something that you're doing just a little differently with your hands than you might be doing ordinarily, there's a surprising result to that. It's the brain pays attention to it because it is new and because it is different. So you can use this strategically, use pressure or rhythm that's different from the norm, or use, slow, mindful touch, talking with your client and educating them along the way, maybe about some of the things that you're doing with your hands. That novel or new sensation can be a great way to get the brain to pay attention to what's happening and say, hey, this feels different. This feels really good. Maybe we don't need to sound the pain alarm here so much as more. So let's boil it all down to a few practical points you can use in your practice. First of all, remember again, you're not just working on muscles. You're working on perception. A colleague of mine said many, many years ago, and I've just tried to remember this ever since, the nervous system is your client in so many different ways. Every touch is interpreted by the brain and influences the experiences of safety or threat that the person feels. So touch really matters. So does tone, rhythm, novelty, and intention. So consider varying your techniques, not just for mechanical effects, but for the neurological input and the neurological effects that those methods have. The story your client tells themselves is a big part of that treatment. So use language and education to reinforce safety, resilience, and optimism in all the things that you're doing. As your mindset in terms of what you're doing with them, try to also, if you can, move beyond the idea of tissue pathology, remembering that not all pain is tissue-based, especially in a lot of those chronic pain cases. Support the nervous system regulation and not just sort of mechanical repair of what you're trying to get done through those specific techniques that you're doing with your hands. So when we combine manual therapy with movement and education, these three together are super powerful tools for helping the brain rewire its pain responses. So there you have it in essence. Pain is complex. It's a dynamic process, not just a one-way signal from the body, but a full conversation between the body and the brain. And the brain can turn that signal up or down based on everything from chemistry to trust to an expectation to the things that we're doing with novel touch. All of those factors are critical. As manual therapists, you have a unique opportunity to be a part of that system to help the brain calm the body. And here's the other thing. Because we spend so much time in the treatment room with each individual, we have more opportunity to make much more dramatic and significant changes in this descending modulatory system and pain management than so many other healthcare providers do. So take advantage of that and use all of those tools to your best benefit, and that's going to help get you much better results with your clients. So I hope today's episode gave you some new insights into how your work may be impacting more than just muscles, fascia, or joints. It's helping activate one of the most powerful systems of pain relief we have, which is essentially the brain itself. If you want to explore these topics further, there's a wealth of academic research and other valuable resources on the web for how to enhance descending modulation with manual therapy. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's working in your practice? What challenges are you seeing with pain and perception? Shoot me a message over at the Academy of Clinical Massage or connect with us online. Thanks again today for tuning into the ABMP Podcast, and I'll look forward to future engaging conversations with you. And until then, keep asking good questions, keep helping people find calm in their bodies and in their lives. See you next time.
Massage therapists, are you looking to enhance your skills and improve your practice? Here's your chance. The American Massage Conference is back. This 3-day event will be at Disney Springs in Orlando, May 16th to 18th, and kicks off with Free Friday, which is open to everyone. The weekend has over 20 educators offering approved continuing education and a tribute to the late, great Eric Dalton, as well as nightly cocktail receptions to network and unwind. Head over to massagetherapymedia.com/conferences to secure your pass and join us in connecting therapists globally.